Yo, 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 what up, everybody? Mark Deez here live. This is my YouTube channel. I haven't been really doing videos like this in a long time, especially on YouTube, but I figured tonight we go ahead and we let it rip. If you follow me on Facebook, you saw my initial reaction video in regards to The Last Jedi, and tonight I got to watch it again. My second viewing for The Last Jedi. Same thing in the initial reaction. Just what a great film. What a great film. I'm going to delve into some spoilers this time around, so bear with me. But just what a great film. Rian Johnson, my hat's off to him. He is the definition of auteur filmmaker. If you know what an auteur is, it's basically what George Lucas would be considered. A filmmaker that makes films for him, by him, about him. You know what I mean? Because Star Wars really kind of like a metaphor for George Lucas's life. George Lucas, Luke Skywalker, Luke S. And Rian Johnson inherits this universe and manages to make it his own. You can clearly tell that the story that he told was one that he believed in, and one that was dear to his heart, I think. Because coming into Last Jedi, when you look at it from the standpoint of what The Force Awakens was, The Force Awakens was entirely a rehash of A New Hope, and by extension of that, A Phantom Menace, because A Phantom Menace is also A New Hope rehash. Just when Lucas does it, people call it the ring theory, and which, it kind of does ring true with Lucas's ring theory, but that's a whole nother video for a whole nother time. What I'm saying is, J.J. Abrams made a very derivative movie to begin this trilogy with The Force Awakens, and Rian Johnson's job was to expand on the foundation that J.J. had laid and drive that forward. So, Rian Johnson didn't have the luxury of picking this cast. Mark Hamill, Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Domhnall Gleeson, Gwendolyn Christie, everybody that's in the film, essentially, except for a couple of the new characters that Ryan got to pick. That's all JJ, or they were, the classic characters, the classic actors. So Rian Johnson had to take a foundation that was already laid, and he really had to build a master class of a house on top of it. That's exactly what he did with Episode 8, The Last Jedi. And Mark Hamill, man, Mark Hamill, I have so much respect for that guy. He's one of my favorite people on this planet. I am an absolute fan of him. I look up to that guy. Did when I was a kid because he's Luke Skywalker. Do as an adult, not because he's Luke Skywalker, but because he's just such a tremendous and genuine person. And to see him get to shine like this at his age, I believe he's 65. He's had a tremendous voice career in the interim between Luke Skywalkering. But on the silver screen, you don't really get to see much of Mark Hamill. The last movie I saw him in prior to this trilogy, this new trilogy, would have been Sushi Girl, which was a Tarantino-esque film that was very low-budget indie film. Mark Hamill gets to shine in the biggest blockbuster of the year. It's his magnum opus performance as Luke Skywalker. He delivers a Luke Skywalker that we're not used to seeing at all. And it's kind of heartbreaking. And Rian Johnson, back to Ryan just for a second, what fucking cojones on that guy to make that, choice with the story. Because when JJ set this up, I guarantee you, he did not have the idea to make Luke such a broken man. I really do not believe that at all. I think that the whole Kylo and the temple stuff was definitely set up to be paid off later, and that was a part of Luke's foundation for this trilogy. But We never expected Luke to almost essentially have to be an anti-hero or a disgruntled veteran. He doesn't want to be a Jedi anymore. A Jedi to him has become a burden, that he wants to completely eradicate from the galaxy, not just in himself, but from the galaxy. He is the last Jedi, and you would think that, yeah, okay, your temple failed, your students died, Kylo turned, and you would think that Luke would react in a different way. The heroic Luke that we know, the one that rode off into the sunset in Return of the Jedi, that Luke is not the Luke that you get to begin this film. And it's not the Luke that J.J. Abrams gave us for The Force Awakens. And what's really cool in some of the ancillary material for The Last Jedi, Luke was basically performing one last Jedi rite, and I almost took it to mean Luke was going to kill himself right when Rey was arriving. That's deep and that's dark, and that's not where I expected them to take Luke in this film at all. And they took Luke to places that I didn't think he would ever go. But, I absolutely loved it. I loved the take on Luke being a broken, beat down, disgruntled, disillusioned master of the Force. And the payoff for it was wonderful. My only gripe about that is, of course, we don't get to see Luke in a lightsaber battle, in a traditional sense. But what Luke Skywalker accomplishes in this film is easily the greatest feat of Force mastery we have ever seen in a Star Wars film, and probably will ever see again. And that's another great thing I love about a subplot in this movie. If you remember Obi-Wan in A New Hope saying to Vader, "If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you could possibly imagine." Well, you get to see that finally with the Force Ghost. We never got to see that with Force Ghost Anakin, or Force Ghost Obi-Wan, or Force Ghost Yoda up until now. Because when Yoda showed up on Ahch-To, oh my God, and what do you see him do? He destroys the Force tree with the Force, with Force lightning, essentially. And obviously Yoda knew that Rey had taken those texts that Luke was so desperately trying to destroy. And that's just the tip of the iceberg for, I think, what Force characters are going to be capable of. And what Luke did was just unprecedented. But what I'm saying is, with all of that, I remember there was a plot line for Return of the Jedi way back where Yoda and Obi-Wan would help Luke from beyond the grave. Their ghosts were going to help him fight the Emperor at the end of Return of the Jedi, and obviously that's not what we got. But I'm beginning to wonder if they want to recycle some of that now, especially with Carrie Fisher's untimely passing. Because Luke, in my estimation, the Force projection, the astral projection, whatever you want to call that Luke did, which was the most fucking amazing thing I've ever seen. I don't know if that really says that Luke's dead. I look at it from like an esoteric kind of way and say that Luke ascended. Luke ascended because the way that he vanishes, just the grandiosity of it, it wasn't abrupt. There was a grandiosity and a serenity to it, too. And it's like he ascended. He didn't just vanish like the other Jedi that we've seen die. He ascended. And I think that could be a hint of what's to come in Episode 9, because we know that Mark Hamill's coming back. We know that Luke Skywalker will be in Episode 9 as a Force Ghost no matter what. But I think that now that he's a Force Ghost, he's going to be something other than that. Something stronger than that. Maybe, like, he's become one with the Force, like, or something of that nature. He's ascended to a higher level than any other Force user in history with what he did. Amazing. And people will say, well, he should have had a lightsaber duel. He kind of did, And the stuff that he did, because they say a true Jedi never uses the Force for attack, only defense. And that's exactly what Luke Skywalker did, which was and he made it badass. He made it look badass. He never threw any offense. He didn't have to. Obviously, he could make contact with objects. I'm wondering why he just didn't obliterate Kylo right then and there. Because, his projection could touch Leia and things of that nature. You see him come in contact in his projection with other beings and other things. So, I don't know, maybe it's some type of elaborate illusion, but I think there's more to it. And I think that Luke is going to do something more than just guide Rey in the future. And I don't think that it'll just be Luke either. What if Luke brings back Anakin and confronts Kylo? How awesome would that be? But I'm running out of time here. I only got like 17 minutes of recording time available on this clip for some reason. But Kylo and Rey teaming up was pretty dope. But the thing that shocked me more than anything in this film was Supreme Leader Snoke getting bisected. Oh my God. That was the jaw-dropping moment of the film for me. When I saw that, I was in utter shock. And I had a feeling that Kylo and Rey were going to team up at some point in the film. And I was kind of hoping that things would go back towards the light. But, I really just didn't see this film going this way. I didn't at all. I figured that Snoke was going to kidnap Rey, and then Luke was going to have to come try to save the day, and then they were going to regroup at 9 to take Snoke down, but that's not what happened at all. Snoke got decimated by Kylo Ren, so now we got Emperor Kylo Ren, and that's going to be very interesting. It's amazing to see Kylo Ren's character because he's essentially Anakin from the prequels on steroids. He's everything that Anakin's character should have been in the prequels, leading up to becoming Darth Vader. And it's beautiful that at least we get to see it now, and he's of the Skywalker bloodline. And, he's a lot like Anakin in that sense. He really is. His character is a lot like Anakin. And I really like that. I love everything Rey was doing in this film. Daisy Ridley was great. But, the revelation of the parents saying they were just random scavengers or whatever, there could still be more to that. I mean, they say she's no one. I think there might be something more to that. Maybe she is someone, I think she's a child of the Force still. Because I don't think Kylo knows the full story. And I don't think Luke did either. And I think it's something that Rey is going to find out, as she continues on her self-discovery journey. We'll see. I just don't think that's the finish on that. I really don't. And I think there's things JJ is going to want to add to the mythology now that Ryan has stretched it so far. And in so many different crazy places. And the other thing about this movie, Carrie Fisher, God rest her soul. I always wanted to see Leia use the Force in a movie, and we finally got to see it. Yeah, it was a little bit corny. I mean, she was frozen in space and was pretty much dead, and then she magically floated back into the ship. But still, that's Leia, okay? She's the daughter of Darth Vader, the daughter of Anakin Skywalker. You know that she's got some serious Force potential. And all of them do. Every one of them do. The difference was Leia never trained as a full Jedi. She went into politics and into strategy for the war. So Leia never got all of that type of training. But she was Luke's first student. We know that for a fact. That was confirmed. Leia was Luke's first student. So we got a tremendous film. And I can't wait for episode 9. I'm ecstatic. I've seen The Last Jedi twice now. I think Mark Hamill stole the show. I think Adam Driver stole the show next to him. Those two really stole the show. Daisy Ridley was adequate, and Carrie Fisher had a beautiful last performance. And those are really just the major plot points that I could touch on right now. Also, I just want to say Steve Yedlin's cinematography was masterful. Rian Johnson's directing was masterful. And Ryan reminds me a lot of George Lucas. Whereas JJ's like a Spielberg guy, Rian Johnson's a lot like George Lucas, man. He really is. And I praise him for bringing Canto Bight in, because it's a very prequel aesthetic choice. There were a lot of things that reminded me of the prequels in here. Some of the humor, too, is very humorous, kind of corny humor that George Lucas was known for. Not on the annoying level of a Jar Jar, but more the little creatures in Jabba's palace and Ewoks and things like that. So that's what I look at when I see Rian Johnson. And also, a cool thing about Rian Johnson that is the exact opposite of what JJ did in The Force Awakens. If you notice, Rian didn't move the camera nearly as much. A lot of his shots are very static and stationary, just like George Lucas's were. And there's still a lot of camera movement and stuff, but just not on the elaborate level that a Spielberg or in this case J.J. Abrams, because he's just like Spielberg, what they would do, where they do so many just intricate shots that are just way out there with the cameras. But unbelievable film. Rian Johnson, you're a master. I can't wait for J.J. to finish up with episode 9. I can't wait for Ryan's spinoff trilogy. That's going to be absolutely insane. And I just want to say also Oscar Isaac, John Boyega, both did a tremendous job. It's just some of the new characters were underwritten. I thought Rose, DJ, and Admiral Holdo were underwritten. And I'm going to close this video out with a special rest in peace to the greatest admiral that the rebellion ever had. Admiral Akbar is no longer with us. Rest in peace, Admiral Akbar. Legend. And I'm not going to say R.I.P. Luke Skywalker, because Luke Skywalker has ascended to a higher level. Luke isn't dead. He has ascended. My final rating, I give it a 9.5 out of 10. It would have been a full 10 if not for some pacing issues in the middle. It dragged a little bit. But other than that, excellent movie. Rian Johnson, you made a masterpiece. This is one of my favorite of all the Star Wars films, and easily the best of this trilogy so far. Peace.